How the heck are you guys? I'm Fastidious. You can call me Fasti. Let's talk about Kokardi, and then let's do a bunch of summons. Really quick, guys, you can hear that I intended this to be one video where we analyze Kokardi and then we do summons, and it's a short, sweet, casual thing. However, because of two things, I had to split this into two different videos, and I think you'll understand and appreciate why. Basically, I spent so long analyzing Kokardi because I had so many thoughts about his kit, his potential, his shortcomings, his strengths, so on and so on. My analysis went on for over 10 minutes. My breakdown went on for over 10 minutes. So that was just a lot. And then we went into the summons, and these were the most god-tier, ridiculous summons in a very, very long time on this account, and that I've done personally or seen in general. It was so ridiculous. So we're going to have two videos. If you're watching this now, this is the analysis video. I really have a lot of thoughts about him, and I'm really curious what your thoughts are too, so let's talk about that below. And then I'll link in the description, top and comment, I'm going to have the summons video, and that's just going to be simple. Look at these god-tier summons. Holy freaking crap, because we pulled him the whole freaking way, and he was just... I can't even go into specifics. He was raining from the skies above. It was nonstop Kokardi. Let's get into it. We are here on the Fasti account. This is our Kraken account. Shout out to my boy Larry, who finances and runs the majority of this account. I just help out with the real-time arena and the direction and the planning. But it's a really cool account. It is very unique in that a ton of money has been spent here, and we can basically max out any character for prowess whenever we want. When it comes to skills and lattices, that, of course, is something where we're capped, though it's a cool place to make content and a cool place to look into some things. And I thought today we're going to do a bucket of summons, a whole tub of summons, a mountain of summons for Kokardi, a whole mountain of summons for Kokardi. But before we do that, I figure let's talk about him now that he's been in the game for a few days. I want to give a shout out to a great content creator, Samul. I do not know him, but when it comes to non-strictly RTA stuff and more global knowledge for things, especially when I'm busy and I don't have time to test as much as I like to do myself, I go to his videos. He's very popular, so I don't think you really need me to tell you, but I like to cite my sources. And though I shared almost every belief already that he shared in his video, he definitely did articulate some things extremely well, and one thing in particular better than I had done so already in my head, so I'm going to be crediting him for that. And basically what he keyed in on is what I was feeling with Kokardi when I did a little testing, and certainly when I watched a whole bunch of videos on him. And it's basically this. He is a damage ramping character, but he's only for PvP. Naturally, in PvP, because of the Etheria effects, every character is a damage ramping character. And I truly think that is the disconnect in his design, because by the time he has ramped himself up the way he normally would, just from his own kit, as he stacks his Calamity Flame effect, everyone else is getting boosted and ramped up as stacks of Etheria effect are going, and everyone's getting stronger and stronger. So effectively, this feels like he gets nullified. I still think he's worth pulling for, and that's why we're about to pull a bunch. However, if you're like a free-to-play like I am on my main account, or if you're just on the fence, you're trying to save for a future thing, I think there is an argument to not pull for him or to get maximum one copy. And that is actually what I'll recommend to most people, unless you are very, very PvP-oriented and have a good chunk of money. So with Kokardi, to bring it home, it comes down to this. He is designed as a damage-amplifying character building over time, right? As he gets closer and closer to maxing out his Calamity Flame stacks at 16. However, to be that kind of character, you need to be a proper bruiser. In a certain way, he is designed like that because you cannot directly target him, so he can survive better than your typical attack-based, non-tanky DPS. However, that is not enough to keep him from dying when his base tankiness and base survivability stats are so low. When we take a look at his base HP, it is less than 10,000 at 9,779. And his base defense is not even 750. These are inadequate survivability numbers and tankiness stats for someone we want to last deep into a battle. By the time he makes it, if he makes it deep enough into a battle to have his full Calamity stacks and start dealing some major damage, everyone else has already gotten very, very strong from the Etheria effect, as that has been stacking, and the other units he's going up against, very likely that deep in a battle, are proper bruisers, defense-based DPS, like Holden, of course. We've got more in Rahu over here. We've got Mizuki Makoto, very easy to build SR, easy investment, Mizuki Makoto. All these guys have the tanky stats. I mean, here's our SR unit. She has almost 900 base defense, and she has over 10,500 base HP, right? So when you're that deep in the battle, though he has all the stacks of Calamity Flame, and though you probably are thinking, and yes, it is true, Kokardi is benefiting himself from the stacked Etheria effect, those guys are benefiting enough that they can already hit extremely hard, and it kind of makes his Calamity Flame not feel as special as it should. And then if you think about HP-based DPS, it's a whole nother story. Like a Tiamat, whose strong affinity against him, that's a major problem. So I truly think there is a problematic flaw in this kit. That being said, he is pretty good. His passive is very interesting. I think the AoE increased crit rate is underrated, especially in some of the stuff I've seen lately. I think the turn meter boost on his turns every other turn by 20% is also underrated, and I do think people are underselling his damage. I think that's with fair reason, because in PvP, he is a non-factor. No one is latticing this guy for PvP. There are great low investment SR options, and there are excellent SSRs that are going to be more versatile in PvE and PvP that would be a stronger investment. But if you're deep in the game and just caring about PvP and you care about two things, variety and future potential, I do think he is a good choice and someone you're going to want to roster. So let's talk about the first example. People that are not so hyper-focused on that, but it's on their mind, and they're not Krakens. You're free to play, you're low spender, you're balling on some kind of budget, you're good to go. There's no reason not to pick up his base copy, because we get so many summons in this game. These are not all free to play, but I'll put a picture up right now. On my main account, I have like 190 free to play summons saved right now, and I went to 100 summons on the most recent Wishminder event, and I got a copy of Batsby, and I got a copy of Nymphonia, right? So on that account, I'm picking up everything, and I'm still at almost 200 summons, so there's no reason not to pick up a copy. If you want to stay on top of every new character, be prepared for buffs, and have good variety on your roster. However, anything more than that, on accounts like that, with budgets like that, or free to play entirely, I do not think you can justify investing any further than that base copy. We'll talk about Aya tomorrow or the next day when we go in on this banner and we do our summons for Mizusumi Aya, but she is even more underwhelming in my opinion and even more niche. So she's actually someone I think certain players maybe could get away with skipping. Stay tuned for that video. However, if you are someone who is very much planning for the future, very much aware that they're consistently rebalancing and buffing characters after every RTA season, and someone who just wants good variety for their drafts already, even in his current state, he's a good end of the draft option depending on who your opponents pick. He's not bad at all. I will say he is very hungry for skill ups, and that's kind of tragic, and that's a disaster. So I don't think many players will be heavily investing in him for a long time until something new comes, a rebalance, a new kind of gear, something like that. However, having him to begin with, I do think is a good thing. So I've done a lot now. I've given a big spiel, but to bring it all home, I truly think Kokardi is going to need a rebalance. I think he's functional enough for certain things right now that he's not irrelevant. Not every character needs to be power creep. Not everyone needs to be OP, but for someone that is not filling any role in PvP, I do think they need to have more obvious and direct usability in PvP without an enormous lattice investment. And certainly they should not be the kind of animus that absolutely requires some huge investment, because that's kind of what he feels like now, and he's not even worth it, right? The final thing, though, I do want to say is I expect a rebalance, and I actually think they could achieve it pretty simply. His problem, his core problem, as I described, is he's not ramping up fast enough to be stronger than his opponents by the time they've been naturally ramped up in PvP by the Etheria effect stacking. So simply, what you can do is allow him to stack faster or make his stacks more potent. And there's so many ways you could do this. Here, the target's max HP not exceeding 20% of his attack, make it 40% of his attack or 30% of his attack. Here, making the stack cap at 16, that's kind of already fine. I would say maybe make it 20, and then a lot of these skills, have them add more stacks more quickly. So the S1 here, everything I'm going to say is at max skill ups. Instead of adding 1 stack, this could be 2. The passive, this could be 3. The AoE, this could be 4. All of a sudden, he's outpacing the other unit's ability to ramp up and get more powerful throughout the battle as they get the benefit of the Etheria effect. He'll get the stack so fast that he's going to do even better. The final thing you could clearly do is just make this percentage higher. So instead of making the increase 1.5% of the target's max HP when he's skilled up, make it 2%, make it 2.5%. The devs could test this out a lot and find a really good sweet spot. because there still is a lot of meat on the bone in this kit. I hope I've expressed and detailed and articulated the nuance in my position on him. I don't think he's a bad character at all. I just feel like many players are viewing him and experiencing him as a disappointment because he's not OP, he's a very intense investment, and he's strictly limited to PvP. So that's relevant, especially the last part, because he's kind of useless to progression players. And everyone else that's deep in the game already has units they've very well developed, so he's strictly going to be a niche slot filler deep in a draft, right? He's just not going to be a top pick kind of guy. Not yet. But as I articulated as well, there's a couple things they could tweak. A lot of these numbers, the stacks, the quantity he gets per skill added in terms of stacks, the percentage of his attack that he's capped at, the percentage of the target max HP damage he's actually dealing per stack. It wouldn't be that hard. I think they should evaluate this and they should rebalance for next season. So I think everyone should get a copy because I do expect them to do something like that. It just feels right. It's easy enough, man. It's 80 summons. They throw summons at us, so just do it. Do not worry. Yes, my Mizusumi Aya video will also start with a little rant, but it'll be less than half as long as this because I actually don't think there's as much nuance. I think she's already somehow a little overrated, even though a lot of people do think she stinks. I just think she's so mid and so not worth your lattice, but you'll see that in the next video, and we will summon for her, of course. But for now, it's Kokardi. Average player, if you're progressing, maybe even a skip if you're very young. Anyone else, get the one copy, and then if you're very competitive and have a decent wallet, or you're a little competitive and have a big wallet, I'd maybe pick up a little bit more. It's all up to you. All right, we're going to cut this one right here, guys. You can really see, I see a lot of potential in this kit, but I also see a lot that is left to be desired. I do think he will have relevance in the future. I do also think his relevance is niche and limited right now. Thank you for watching. If you're not yet playing Etheria, please use my link in the description in the top and comment to download today. Share with your mother, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.